Hello, guys. Welcome. My name is Michael Ducille from michaelducille.com. I'm with Daniel right now. Daniel, how are you doing, good sir?
Doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
Excellent, excellent. Well, before I get started, I don't think I'll do you justice by introducing you. So I just kind of want you to introduce yourself. Let the people know exactly who you are for those who don't know, and kind of what you've done, what you've accomplished so far.
Hey, okay, so my name is Daniel DiPiazza. I'm the founder of Rich 20 Something. My main focus is teaching young people how to start freelance businesses and live happier lives. I've written for places like Entrepreneur Magazine, Huffington Post. Um, I enjoy long walks on the beach.
Excellent, excellent. Now, obviously, we've known each other for an extended period of time, and your friendship and your mentorship has been an absolute blessing. So I thank you for that, first and foremost.
My pleasure.
But the first thing I want to ask, now that I've come on this journey, and many others who want to get onto this entrepreneurial journey, what is your advice to them, or how did you know? What exactly you wanted to do, what you wanted to kind of accomplish, because obviously you're and where you are now wasn't where you were when you first started. So how did you get to the point you are now?
That's a good question. You know, I think that it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do when you get started because the most important factor is momentum, right? And you can always change your direction, but it's much harder to start something from scratch than it is to change when you're already in motion. So I say that to say that when I first started on this like entrepreneurial thing, it was a result of me being really sick and tired of working at this restaurant I was at. I was working at Longhorn Steakhouse in Atlanta. I was really sick of it. So my first kind of venture into working for myself was I opened up a test prep company, teaching ACT and SAT test prep because that was a skill that I'd acquired um, in college. And I worked for Kaplan and I developed that skill. So I broke out on my own and I started my own thing. And then I said, okay, well, that was fun, but I want to do something that's a little bit more portable. So I'm like, well, maybe I can do web design. And then I realized, well, I'm not good at web design that much, but I'm pretty good at selling websites. So I figured out how to basically create an outsourced web design business where I could sell websites, have other people do them for me, and then take a large part of the profit. So I did that, and then I started writing about this stuff, and the writing took off, and more people kept asking me how I was doing some of these things, these freelance businesses. So I started writing about freelance businesses. I started teaching it, and that's kind of how I got to where I am now. But I certainly didn't have that plan going into it.
Excellent, excellent. And you came up with the name Rich 20 something. How did that name come about?
Uh, well, I think I think I was just I was like late at night, and I wanted to start because I remember like I'd been thinking about toying with the idea of starting the website for a while, and I think one night I just woke up. I said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna whatever I can come up with now. I'm just gonna do that." And it was like 1 or 2 in the morning when on GoDaddy bought it. Um, the website name is cool, but I don't really think it's too like I'm not really sure it matters 100% what your domain name is. I mean, there are better domain names than others. And eventually, I'm not going to be a 20 something anymore. I'm 26 now. Eventually, I won't be that anymore. So, it might not be widely applicable to me anymore. But it's just something that describes my mentality in terms of wanting to be financially independent at a young age. And so that's kind of how I got there.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you know, you've been the host of Live TV. I interviewed, a lot of well-endowed people. Lori Griner, which is one of my favorites, to, just to, to that place where you're able to, interview someone like her and just the other people that you're able to interview and, get into that platform.
It's a good question. Lori is one of the hosts of Shark Tank. She's an investor, and I've interviewed some other cool people too. Dante Bosco, who is Rufio from Hook, Neve Schulman, who hosts Catfish, who like porn stars, some athletes, just cool people doing interesting work. Stephen Key, who He's a New York Times bestselling author, wrote One Simple Idea. He's a great inventor. He invented laser tag. Really cool guy. And all of that came about because essentially I had a friend who was a host of the network, but the way that I got that friendship was through a systematic process of just meeting cool people and doing it purposefully. So when I find someone who's doing awesome work online, I'll say to them, "This is really cool. Let's grab a bite to eat, or let's go out to lunch, or let's get some coffee if we live in the same area. Or if we don't, we'll just keep talking. And we'll develop a friendship. And once I develop that friendship, it's very easy at that point to say, hey, you seem like a really cool person. Who else do you know that you think I might be, who I might get along with?" And a lot of times I'll meet people and they'll introduce me to their friends just because I ask. And I organically grow my friendships that way. And that partnership with Lip TV just came as a result of that. But it's not some secret sauce. It's just meeting people who are doing cool work. Like, rather than trying to find the people who are like the richest people I can find, or like the most famous people I can find, I just try to find people who are doing interesting projects. And usually people who are doing interesting projects are around other people who matter and who are doing things that might be of value to me. And it's just trying to meet people that way.
Excellent. Now, it seems like the biggest thing, or at least what I've noticed on this journey, is developing relationships with people in your industry, even outside of your industry. Um, just people who can propel you and take you to that, to that next level. Obviously, doing the work, of course. Now, who has been your most meaningful connection that really propelled you to the level, to get into, whether it was Lip TV, or I know you've been featured in stuff like Forbes and Huffington Post, stuff like that. There's been any one person that actually took you to that next level, or helped
Um,
you achieve that, I should say?
yeah, man. It's I don't know, man. I don't think there's one person. I think that a network is like a living, breathing organism. So it's not so much in many cases, it's not so much nepotism where you have like one person who like puts you on and like gives you everything. It's more like a collective community effort where every person in your network, as long as you're giving to them, they're giving back to you. And the whole term of networking is very played out. It's kind of stupid to talk about. I like to think of it as just friendships. I don't really think of it as networking. I think of it as I'm just making friends like I would normally. Like when you're a kid on the playground in kindergarten, you're not like, who am I going to network with? You're just like, I want to make friends, And so that's the way I try to think about it. There isn't one person um, who's put me on, but I will say that sometimes I'll think about the power of just having personal connections with people and realize that it really really makes a huge difference. I mean, you know, um, I've had some of my friends who I've just met casually have ended up, making me tens of thousands of dollars. Other people who I've met have, other people who I've met have allowed me to like travel around the world just because I ended up knowing these people and a series of events happened, and all of a sudden I'm in Nicaragua and Costa Rica. And other times I've met people and it's landed me on TV, or it's gotten me, into Entrepreneur Magazine. Like a great example is getting into some of these higher end publications, Entrepreneur, Forbes, blah blah blah. People will beat on the door for years trying to get in here, like submitting articles, trying to call the editors or whatever. It just doesn't really work. But I got into Entrepreneur because I had a friend, Stephen Key, who's an author friend of mine who already writes for them. He gave me one introduction. I was in within an hour. How did I meet Stephen Key? I met him through the Lip. How did I get on the Lip? Through my friend Gabriel. How did I meet Gabriel? Through my friend Jordan. How did I meet Jordan? Because I saw he was doing cool stuff online, and I said, "That's awesome. Let's talk." So it's like a series of events, and I met Jordan, and I had no idea that 5 connections later, from something completely unrelated, I'd be in Entrepreneur Magazine. But the idea is seeing people who are doing great things and connecting with them And then it becomes more than about like one person putting you on. It's about having the security of knowing that you have a lot of cool friends who are doing fun things, and as long as you're helping them, with whatever they need when the time is right, they'll help you too.
Excellent. So now let's backtrack a little. I want to kind of go back just for you graduated from the University of South Florida, and was that obviously you don't people don't technically go to school, go Bulls definitely, to become an entrepreneur. That's usually not how it works. So what was your original plan before you got to
Shit.
where you were now? Is it take where was that?
I mean, look, man, I had no plan. I thought I was gonna be a lawyer or something. I didn't know. I mean, you know that you and I were in communications classes together doing like plays and stuff. Like we weren't, I didn't know what I was gonna do. You know, I studied abroad for a few years. When I was at USF, I was in Greece, and while I was over there, I had this like epiphany that I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do. I could just like figure out what I wanted and then figure out a way to get that. I had this like idea that I didn't have to follow the traditional path. So that was what set me off. But then once I got back to the US, it was very like, okay, well, back to reality. Now what? And when I got out of school, when I graduated from college from USF, I had two choices. I felt I had two choices. I could either go to more school and get a master's degree and take it to the next level, spend $100,000 on a degree that I didn't know if I was ever going to use, because I didn't really want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. I didn't really feel like there was any degree that would really be meaningful enough to spend that amount of money and time on. So I didn't do that. And then I didn't want to do corporate. I didn't want to like go work for an office and just be stuck in a cubicle all day. I just didn't want that, and I just dreaded it. But then at the same time, without those two options, what I was left with was either like work, like basically working these like low end wage jobs. Like I worked at a restaurant, I worked at a museum. I did all these like just jobs for less than $10 an hour. And after a while, I was working those jobs, and I remembered what I learned in Greece, which was that I didn't have to do something I didn't want to do. And it sounds very like millennial. It's very much like almost sounds like a selfish millennial idea. Like you don't want to do, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but that's kind of the world that we live in now. And so like I said, I started those first the test prep business, then the web design business, then I started creating courses about doing those things, and but I didn't know what I wanted in the beginning.
Great. Now, I'm a client of yours, and I'm like, damn, you know what? I know this 9 to 5 isn't for me. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to figure it out. I want to do something, but I don't know what it is that I want to do. Which I'm sure you get tons of people who are like that, who write to you, who just don't know what to do, how to generate income, how to make money online, and create that. Most people are trained and taught to, obviously go to school, get a good job, go to school, get education, get a good job, and, through that job, you pay back school, all that other, BS that we're kind of trained to. Now, where does someone, who has no idea, what they want to do or how to make money online, like, where do they go? What direction do you point them in? Is there a certain book you have them read? What's your goal to kind of get them to hone in on what it is that ultimately can generate them cash? Because at the end of the day, that's what you need to make to survive.
Dude, that's a great question. It's a really good question. And I think that the first thing you have to stress is that it's not making money online. Like when you talk about that, it seems very nebulous. When you talk about making money online, people who are inexperienced think that means that you just go online, build a website, and it just makes money. And there are some like weird internet like affiliate things and scheme things, especially like back in the early 2000s, where you could just like set up a website and it's an instant cash machine. Like it doesn't work like that. Online is basically just like a super scaled up version of like posting flyers on a community bulletin board. Like it's the same thing, but just like on a massive scale. So really, and when you if you go to your community bulletin board, you scan the board and you look at whatever you think will help you. People have all these different services or products that they sell on these community bulletin boards. You look for what will help you, and you take a little ticket from the number of the thing that will help you. Um, None of those things force you to buy anything. The bulletin board itself, or the little ads in the bulletin board, they don't make money just for being there. They provide services. So online is just a medium to provide services. So what I tell people is, okay, think of what you're good at. And a lot of people are like, I'm not good at anything, or like I've never done that. Well, I think the first thing I say is usually if you have a job and they're paying you to be there, you probably have a skill that someone values with a certain dollar amount. So, let's say you're a web designer, okay, or a web developer. Like you obviously that's like the most obvious example. You obviously can start making websites for other people on the side. But what if it's something more abstract? What if you're like a veterinary technician? Well, you can't really like help operate on dogs online. It doesn't make sense. But you do clearly have a love for animals. You like animals, so like maybe you can start like a pet walking, like a dog walking business, or like do pet sitting, which like sounds weird because most people wouldn't think to do that. But I'll tell you right now that my girlfriend does that, and she makes a good amount of money like every month. And so you got to start thinking about like outside the box, and not even outside the box, but like right next to the box. Don't try to think of like crazy ideas at first. Just think of things that you have in your skill set already, or in your interest circle already, that people will pay for. And then the next step is to realize that like the hourly rate that you're assigned at work doesn't really equal your value. So an example I always use is my mom's a paralegal, or that's one of the things she's done. Well, I don't even know what she's doing now. She's not doing that anymore. Okay, she was a paralegal at one point, and I was talking to her one day, and she was telling me um, how her employer, which is an attorney, bills his clients, his or her clients, like $150 an hour for my mom to perform these services, which is like editing divorce papers and like just doing paralegal shit, like getting together a legal brief, stuff like that. And now the client is paying $150 an hour for the work my mom is doing because it's like from the attorney's firm, but my mom isn't getting $150 an hour. At the same time, that means that someone values her skills at $150 an hour. She's not getting that much, but someone's paying that much. And the attorney is siphoning off the rest of the money. If she's getting paid 20 or 30 bucks an hour, the attorney is taking 120 or 130 from her. So you have to realize like real value versus perceived value. It was the same thing when I was teaching SAT. When I worked for a company that employed me to do that, I made $18 an hour, which I thought was amazing. But I realized very quickly that they were charging families $100 an hour for me to show up and teach this stuff. And they weren't doing anything. All they were doing was like giving me a name and address, and I was going there, I was doing all the teaching, all the follow-up, all the organization. So I thought to myself, if this is worth $100 an hour to someone, and I don't really need them to perform this task, I need to figure out how to do it myself. And so that's what you should think about. After you've identified what your skill set is, what you're good at, or something in the area of your interest, figure out what your rate you're being paid is versus what your actual rate is, how much you're actually worth. And then start becoming more comfortable with charging more money for your services, and you'll see very quickly that you can work a lot less and make a lot more. I could do the same amount of teaching at $100 an hour than I was doing at 18, but I'm going to make a lot more at $100 an hour, and it's the same skill set. So that's how you need to start thinking about it.
Wow, that was powerful. And a lot of people, really don't know that. And to be honest with you, I didn't know that, and I didn't really get it, until recently. And as soon as you start kind of thing, you can ultimately build an enterprise. And it just takes something little. A friend once told me, they said, find something that people don't readily think about, and you can make millions off of the idea. Just the little things that people don't think about, the little niches that's of need that aren't being taken care of. And that was big and that was powerful. And I think that's important for people that it's going to take some work. It's going to take some thinking about. It's going to take some action. Ultimately, a good idea is only as good, if you take action behind it. So I definitely get that, and I want you guys that are watching to get that. It does take action, behind it. Nobody who's created anything that wasn't, didn't work, unless of course you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But it takes action to kind of get things done, and that's important. So, I mean, I don't want to keep you too much long. I know your time is valuable, but I do have to ask. Is there anything that you're currently working on now? Any launches taking place? How are you kind of helping the people?
Well, I mean, like I'd say 99% of the things I do are free. I do have some paid courses. I launch them occasionally, a couple times a year. But I mean, the best way to learn more about this type of stuff that we're talking about is just to go to rich20something.com. It's with a 20, rich20something.com. And yeah, just you can join my tribe. You can start getting some more information and just start slowly pulling yourself up out of the doldrums of the day to day.
Absolutely. And just for you guys who don't know, it is rich20something.com. It's a phenomenal blog. I've learned tons of things and I've gotten tons of value from that. So I do appreciate that. And, ultimately you help enough people get what they want, and ultimately you get what you want. And I get that completely. And you're definitely, uh, you've been doing it. You've been doing that, and I can't thank you enough. And I definitely thank you for the time that you spent, to allow me to kind of pick your brain, and allow the world to kind of pick your brain as well. Because I just asked a few questions that people wanted to know, and they've done that. So now I see you have a UFC shirt on, you know,
Yep.
and what's going on with that?
Oh, just my spare time hobby. You know.
I haven't watched it since Anderson Silva he broke his leg. It hasn't been the same for me.
I know. Well, I think GSP is coming back in a couple of years, so you'll have something to look forward to.
That's good. Daniel, thank you very much. Once again, guys, visit rich20something.com. You get a ton of free value, a ton of free information. He has tons of testimonials, and if you want to work with him directly and actually start something, anything, start creating value in the marketplace, then the revenue follows behind it. He's definitely the guy to speak to. He has tons of clients who done tremendous things, with his guidance. So once again, thank you so much for that. You're the man.
Thank you, amigo. Appreciate you.